This is an AMI podcast.
Welcome to AMI Audiobook Review. I'm Ramia Amuddin here with Nisreen Abdelmajid. To start things off as we do every week, let's have a glance at the CELA homepage, starting with the three featured titles at the top. Probably Ruby by Lisa Burt Wilson is the first one. This is an Indigenous people's fiction. We also have Unreconciled by Jesse Wente, and we're going to talk more about this book in a bit, but this is an Indigenous people's biography category. Also, the last one from this featured titles category is In My Own Moccasins by Helen Knott, Indigenous people's biography. Of course, we've just gone past the first ever National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. That was September 30th, 2021. So lots of stuff there to talk about and lots of reasons to continue to recognize, our part in what's going on in Canada. And though a lot of it is history and we may not have personally lived through it, there are so many stories to be heard and so many conversations to be had. So Nisreen, I think that this is incredible for us to keep featuring not only on this show, but in our lives, going through the audiobooks and the kinds of experiences of learning and hearing stories.
I couldn't agree with you more. Let's do it.
Amazing. So let's keep moving here. We're talking about announcements on the CELA homepage. This is straight from the CELA blog, and it's about Orange Shirt Day. It's called Orange Shirt Day From Story to Movement. This was published September 29th of this year by Karen McKay, who's the author of this particular article. For years, Phyllis Webstad had never told her story to anyone. And then in 2013, while brainstorming with a friend over coffee about an upcoming speech at a residential school commemoration ceremony, Phyllis thought about her first day in residential school and her special orange shirt. Less than a decade later, Phyllis had published 4 books, with her most recent Beyond the Orange Shirt story released this month. She's the executive director of the Orange Shirt Society, an organization dedicated to supporting the concept of every child matters and expanding awareness about the impacts of Indian residential schools on individuals, families, and communities. In the past few years, Phyllis's story and her Orange Shirt Day have become immediately recognizable symbols of the impact of residential schools. School children across Canada have heard her story and participated in Orange Shirt Day since its inception in 2013. Earlier this year, the Government of Canada designated September 30th, Phyllis's Orange Shirt Day, as the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, a dedicated opportunity for education and reflection. Phyllis's story is an excellent example about the power of stories to educate, inspire compassion, and to shift our perspectives. We're honored to offer her books in our collections. This is from CELA in both French and English. That's great. We'll pause there for now about Orange Shirt Day, but really incredible, and we'll recap this in a bit. But for now, let's go to what's trending, Nisreen, because there are a few things on that list as well.
Yes, so today on Twitter, audiobook.com is having a fall sale. They tweeted out, get bestsellers, romance, mystery, and thriller, health and wellness, and so much more, all for $7 and under. So I wanted to ask you before we get to the second topic, what's the most you would spend on a book?
Well, if you count my monthly Audible subscription, that's basically $20 a month, and you get 1 credit. So that's, every book that I spend a credit on, I'm spending $20 or so. I think that's kind of in and around the area that I spend on audiobooks in general. I might have made a big purchase in the past when I got all 7 books of the Harry Potter series in one bundle, because I love Harry Potter. But other than that, yeah, in and around 20.
I So I would compare myself with my sister. My sister goes crazy over books. I've mentioned this before. She's a bookworm, and I cannot. She goes broke because of buying books, and she likes hard book covers. She doesn't like online books. So I think it's a bit more expensive. I don't know if it's more expensive, but buying it from Indigo and other places like Chapters or things like that, she would spend $50. She doesn't care, but even though she's a student, but she would
Wow.
rather read than eat.
Mm.
So I guess
Oh,
that's her motto. I would say $20 is safe a month for me. I agree with you. But
yeah.
this deal is good. There's so many more options on audiobook.com for $7 and under for the fall sale. So check that out. On audiobook.com, they also tweeted out this week's hottest releases. We like to go through that. We go through number 1, Taste My Life Through Food by Stanley Tucci. Number 2, The Storyteller Tales of Life and Music by Dave Grohl. And number 3, Crossroads by Jonathan Franzen. 4, A Carnival of Snackery by David Sedaris. Sankova by Chipandu Onozu. And then the next one we have Last Girl Ghosted. And after that, The Butler by Danielle Steele. These are all interesting books. There's
Mm.
so much, much, much more. But we don't have time to list them all, right?
No, but
No.
definitely check it out. Audiobook.com, audible.com, all the different subscriptions out there. Always tons of new releases. Speaking of new releases, after the break, we're going to check in with Karen McKay and Theresa Power from the CELA Library. It's the first time we're chatting with them. We've been chatting CELA all along, but still nice to get somebody live and in color. We're going to talk about the service's milestone of passing 1 million books on the CELA catalog. We're also going to preview the memoir Unreconciled, Family, Truth, and Indigenous Resistance by Jesse Wente. We'll be back with all that on AMI Audiobook Review. Welcome back to AMI Audiobook Review. I'm Ramia Amadin, host of the show, along with Nisreen Abdelmajid, who's here, on air, helping behind the scenes, teching our whole show for us. This is really a collaborative effort. All right. Enough chit chat. It's time for some more audiobook talk. And this is the section where we hit pause or play. We glanced over a few books in our first part of the show from the CELA homepage under the featured book section. And now we're going to figure out if we would press pause or play on one of these listens. Let's put Unreconciled, Family, Truth, and Indigenous Resistance by Jesse Wente under the microscope or into our earphones. So, tell you a little bit about the book. Jesse Wente remembers the exact moment he realized he was a certain kind of Indian, a stereotypical cartoon Indian. He was playing softball as a child when the opposing team began to war whoop when he was at bat. It was just one of many incidences that formed Wente's understanding of what it means to be a modern Indigenous person in a society still overwhelmingly colonial in its attitudes and institutions. As a child of an American father and Anishinaabeg mother, Wente grew up in Toronto with frequent visits to the reserve where his maternal relations lived. By exploring his family's history, including his grandmother's experience in residential school and citing his own frequent incidences of racial profiling by police who stopped him on the streets, Wente unpacks the discrepancies between his personal identity and how non-Indigenous people view him. Wente analyzes and gives voice to the differences between Hollywood portrayal of Indigenous persons and lived culture. Through the lens of art, pop culture, and personal stories, and with disarming humor, he links his love of baseball and movies to such issues as cultural appropriation, Indigenous representation and identity, and Indigenous narrative sovereignty. He argues that storytelling in all its forms is one of Indigenous people's best weapons in the fight to reclaim their place. Wente explores and exposes the lies that Canada tells itself, unravels the two founding nations myth and insists that the notion of reconciliation is not a realistic path forward. Peace between First Nations and the state of Canada can't be recovered through reconciliation because no such relationship existed. This is what we're working with for Unreconciled. And I want to ask our guests for today, Karen and Theresa. Karen, we'll start with you. Do you press pause or play on this book? Or another question, we'll just throw this in there. Have you read it already?
I haven't read it yet, but I'm looking forward to it. I would definitely push play on this one. I love Jesse Wente. I think he's insightful and smart, and I would absolutely read this book.
Okay, lovely. And Theresa, your take?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely press play on this one too. I'm familiar with Jesse Wente previous to this book. I think it's just a very interesting topic that he talks about, and we're certainly talking a lot about reconciliation in this country. And it is on my very large to read pile of books.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll make a minor dent in that one as you both appear on this show. But Karen McKay and Theresa Power from the Center for Equitable Library Access, I feel like this is a huge warm welcome to you both because we've been featuring CELA since the inception of the show. It's the first time that both of you are coming on, so welcome. Theresa is the Content and Access Librarian, and Karen is the Communications Manager, both at CELA. I think that, just to get my take on it, I think that this book is an incredible and insightful way of looking at truth and reconciliation, right? Because we have the National Day now. I've talked a bit about Orange Shirt Day, but really what it take to think, reconciliation is not even possible. We can't even start there because that's what a lot of us are thinking. Let's start there. But for Jesse to say this is not even plausible because it's not a thing, based on everything that's been going on in our current relationship with the Indigenous peoples, I think it would be an excellent read to get that. So you're both here to discuss some CELA announcements, to get some celebrations underway, and hopefully get to some recommendations. But start with the congratulations because CELA has passed the 1 million book mark on its catalog. So congratulations. We did highlight the blog post last week on the show, but Karen, can you give us a reminder and give us more information?
Absolutely. So thanks very much for that. Congratulations. We are just absolutely thrilled with this milestone. For the last sort of 3 or 4 days before we hit the million mark, everybody would get together as a staff and we'd all watch the numbers go up. We were, holding our breath till we got to the million mark. So CELA was established in 2014, and in the 7 years, essentially, since it's been established, we've added 700,000 titles. So I think that's just phenomenal. But what's really amazing is that we met this number through the support of some of our really fantastic partners. So those would include organizations like Bookshare, Penguin Random House Canada, the National Library Service, which we just announced our new partnership with them not too long ago, and they're going to be adding 80,000 titles to our collection. They're not in there yet. Some of them are, but not all of them. We also have a pilot program with Audible. So those folks they've been so supportive and they've helped us get to this mark. But we also want to acknowledge our member libraries and our funders, of course. But really a huge thanks goes out to our readers and our users because they have supported us and encouraged us to continue to build the collection. And they've participated in that by telling us what they love to read. And so, we want to really share this huge milestone with all the people that helped us get there.
Amazing. Yeah, we can feel the excitement in the air, Karen, not just, this particular milestone, but everything leading up to it, your partnership with Audible and all these incredible things that are going on, the update to the app, which we're very excited about. Kelly and I have been talking about it nonstop on Kelly and Company, but it's great. So congratulations. And we're always looking forward to more and more updates and announcements from you guys. The blog has been exceptional for bringing that to us, basically on a weekly basis here on AMI Audiobook Review. Let's move to the shortlist for awards. There are a few things that we want to talk about here, but Karen, maybe the Writers Trust Awards to begin?
Yeah, so the Writers' Trust Awards, both the fiction and nonfiction categories, announced in the last couple of weeks. They usually announce mid-September to late September, and there are some fantastic books on here. So the Atwood Gibson Writer Trust Fiction Prize just announced a couple of days ago, and it's a newly renamed award. It was formerly the Rogers Writers Trust Fiction Award, but it's been renamed for Margaret Atwood and her partner, Graham Gibson. They were both founding members of the award. So this award presents $60,000 to the finalists and $5,000 to each of the nominated titles. And there's some really well-known authors on this list. So we've got Marion Taves for her book Fight Night is on the list. Guy Vanderhaeg is on for August into Winter. Katerina Vermette, who people know from The Break, her new book is called The Strangers, and so that's been nominated. As has Alex Olin's We Want What We Want. I knew I was going to mess that one up. And then another author that's maybe not quite as well known as the other four, Rivka Galchen, and she's on for Everyone Knows Your Mother is a Witch. She's an award-winning author as well, but I don't know that she's quite as well known as the four. So we have all five of these books in our collection. We're excited to share, and there are some really fantastic stories in there. So we would love for people to check them out.
Excellent. Well, thanks for highlighting those. And we're not done yet because Theresa, we can go over the Gillers shortlist as well.
Yeah, so the Giller shortlist was actually announced just yesterday, so it's hot off the press, these finalists. For people who might not know, the Gillers are a Canadian literary prize. I believe they're actually the biggest in Canada. The purse is for about $140,000 for the winner. And the winner is actually announced on November 8th. It's an evening announcement and something that anyone can watch actually through the CBC. And that's what you can expect in terms of finalists on the Gillers are your serious literary fiction or short story books. So books that have a lot of, meat that you can really dig your teeth into. So the finalists, Fight Night by Miriam Taves is on this one as well. Karen mentioned her book on the Writers' Trust. So Miriam Taves, she's no stranger to the literary scene. She was previously nominated for the Giller Prize twice before. In 2004, she was a finalist for A Complicated Kindness. And in 2014, she was shortlisted for All My Puny Sorrows. And Taves is really known for writing women's stories. Her books are in the voices of women, about women's experiences. And Fight Night is no different. It tells the story of 3 generations of women in a tight-knit family. The voice of the story is a 9-year-old girl named Swiv, and she lives with her mother who is pregnant and her grandmother. And the story is about a set of letters that Swiv writes to her absent father, and the grandmother writes to her unborn grandchild. And it's a story really about survival, about fighting for and living for your life, especially living your life on your own terms. And the remaining 4 nominees are actually new to the Gillers, although perhaps not all new to the literary awards season. So Jordan Tannehill, he's a UK-based Canadian playwright. He's previously won the Governor General's Literary Awards for drama twice, and he is nominated for his second novel, The Listeners. BC-based writer Angelique Lalonde, she's nominated for her debut short story collection, Glorious Frazzled Beans. And that book actually centers around ghosts and shapeshifters. Chiluchi Onyamalukwe Anubia, she's a writer based in Halifax and Lagos, and she's nominated for her debut novel, The Son of the House. And it's a story about 2 women. One is a housemaid, and the other is educated and very privileged. And it's about how one day their lives converge after being kidnapped. And lastly, Omar Al-Akkad, he's a Canadian journalist based in Portland, and he's nominated for his book, What Strange Paradise. You may be familiar with him. His book, American War, was actually defended on Canada Reads in 2018, and it was a bestseller. And so What Strange Paradise is about, it's really a story about refugees. from many different countries who are trying to flee their homelands by boat. But more specifically, it's about one boy named Amir, who is the only one to actually make it. And the book is told in alternating chapters between Amir and a young girl who finds him. And though they don't share a common language, she becomes very dedicated to helping him, despite her own sense of homelessness.
Well, you weren't kidding when you said meat on the bone, Theresa. All of
Yeah,
these,
I know.
yeah. These stories sound incredible, and also thanks for cross-referencing some of these authors and some of the other nominations or recognitions that they've gotten in the past, because familiar names or titles or bestsellers that people could definitely check out that way. We don't have too much time left on the show, but I'm sure we'll get both of you back on. But before we go, can we talk about some of the new books from Penguin Random House Canada that are on your CELA collection? I believe this is the context.
So you actually mentioned quite a few of them. The three that I had actually ended up choosing are the three that we highlighted as featured titles on our website.
Awesome.
So I'm happy to talk just very briefly about two of them because, we talked about Jesse Wente's book already. So probably Ruby by Lisa Bird Wilson. It's about a young Indigenous girl who's adopted by a couple, and eventually this couple's marriage falls apart, and Ruby becomes very interested in finding more about her Indigenous identity. And this leads her down partly a self-destructive path, but also in the way of people who really help her flesh out her history. And this book is about identity, how we come to be who we are. And I think it really points to, how complicated these strands are and how many people and places they're drawn from. And lastly, the book is Wearing Moccasins by Helen Knott. I think it's a book about many things. In one part, it's a memoir about the author's struggle with addiction and trauma. But on the other hand, it's a bit of history as well. The author recounts the signing of Treaty 8 by her own great-grandfather and the legacy of intergenerational trauma. And it's also about the author reclaiming her identity and spirit despite that trauma. And this book was actually longlisted for the RBC Taylor Prize in 2020. And we chose to feature these on our website for the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation on the 30th.
Yeah, of course. And all three of them, we talked a bit about probably Ruby last week, and all three of them sound like incredible stories. And you can see the parallels, right, of the things that we're trying to, the authors are portraying, whether it be real life experiences or those experiences or writing based on things that have happened to people in real life. And some of the books that I've read this year, including There and Five Little Indians, I also draw some of these parallels, but still very, very unique stories.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would say that, every author's story and experience is unique to them. And I'm really happy to see more of these voices, being told and, having this opportunity for our patrons to, to be able to read them and to experience them and to, take these stories in, I think.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for highlighting. And before we go, and I mean it this time, Karen, coming back to you for a quick second. Anything you want to say on the new update to the Dolphin Easy Reader app and the collaboration with CELA that way?
We have been working on this for quite a while, and we are just thrilled that it's in place. We should let folks know that the French translations are a little bit unstable at the moment, but the English is working absolutely great. And we are really happy to be able to offer this because we've had patrons asking for it for quite some time. And if you stay tuned to the blog in the next couple of days, you'll hear about some more updates happening on the CELA website. So we're looking forward to bringing those forward as well.
Oh, we're looking forward to reaping the benefits. Thank you both so much. And as I said, we'll get you back on soon and hopefully talk some more audiobooks as you guys are avid listeners and readers and putting this catalog of amazing audiobooks and other formats of accessible reading out there for us on CELA. Take care.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you.
Theresa Power and Karen McKay of the Center for Equitable Library Access joining us on AMI Audiobook Review, our great friends over there at CELA. Want to check out more on CELA or sign up? Go to celalibrary.ca. That's CELA library.ca. You've been listening to AMI Audiobook Review on AMI Audio. I'm Ramia Amuddin here with Nisreen Abdelmajid, and we will be back next week. Until then, happy audiobook listening.
This was an AMI podcast. For more accessible media, visit ami.ca.